A long time ago, when I was a teenager, my grandparents had what I thought was a really big boat. It was still a big boat. It's like 34 feet long. It was a cabin cruiser from the 70s. It's got these cabins and top decks and all kinds of stuff. And I grew up in California, and we used to take that boat, that cabin cruiser, and we would sail it off from Long Beach, California, over to Catalina Island. Catalina Island is this island, it's 3.5 miles off the coast of California. We always would joke back and forth that every time we take that trip, we're making a real Gilligan's Island type journey because it's a 3.5-hour tour to get there and 3.5 hours to get back. One day we're coming back from Catalina Island though. The boat is full. I've got all of my family. I've got my siblings. I've got my mom, my grandma, my grandpa. He's up on the top deck and he's captaining the boat. And all of a sudden, we're coming back from Catalina Island. We get halfway, and at the halfway point is a point where you can't see the land in front of you and you can't see the island behind you. And all of a sudden, we hit a storm. The storm came in fast. It surprised us. We didn't know this was going to happen, and the storm, it hit hard. All of a sudden, before we knew it, we were in the middle of 11-foot swells. And that little boat, which I thought was huge, was being rocked like a dinghy in the ocean. Back and forth, there's walls of water that are hitting us from every side. Inside the cabin, all of my family, all of my siblings, my grandma and my mom, they're in there trying to keep everybody safe. Don't go outside because they don't want people going overboard and getting hurt. And everybody had to stay down on the floor or on furniture so that way they didn't get rocked. You've got my grandma who's there, and she's keeping everybody safe and inside. You've got my mom who's got her hands on things on the wall, like the microwave and things like that, trying to keep it from falling down. You've got my sister who used to get seasick, and she was very seasick and hating life at the moment. And everybody looked around, and they seemed terrified. They were terrified of this massive ocean that they couldn't see. Like every wave was hitting us. They're terrified. They're scared, except for me. I wasn't terrified at all. In fact, I was turning it into a game. It was a fun game. Like when the boat all of a sudden hits the top of a wave and then it comes down and it comes down fast, I would grab onto the handrails and then I'd do a little jump so I can catch the gravity on the way down, kind of like how you do with an elevator, right? I'm that guy that goes into the elevator that's full and as you go, you jump really quick, freak everybody out. So I'm over here having fun with this. They're like, what's going on? Why are you not scared? It's because my grandpa is steering the boat. I know my grandpa. My grandpa is the best pilot of a boat you could have. He's the best captain you could have. And if he says it's safe, and if he's confident that we're going to be able to get through this, then it is safe. We're going to get through this. So I'm having fun in this. Well, then my grandma, she decides, all right, well, I want to check up on your grandpa. And she was about to go out, and I volunteered. I said, no, I'll go out there, and I'll brave the 14-foot swells. Send me. Now, some of you guys also caught something I just did there. If you notice, I started out the story with 11-foot swells. We went to 12-foot swells, and now they're 14. That's because this is a sea story. You see, in sea stories, it's just like this. When you catch a fish that's this big, it's really this big over years, right? But seriously, the waves were really big. 15-foot swells. So here, all of a sudden, I'm walking outside the boat. I'm getting along the decks, and I volunteer to go up and check on my grandpa, and you have to climb up these ladders up the decks, and I climb up those ladders, and I'm good to go. And I get up finally to the top deck where my grandpa is, and I came upon a scene that I wasn't expecting. Here's my grandpa. He's got his hands clenched on the helm, and his head is bowed, and his eyes are closed. So I come up to him, surprise him from the back. Pa, what are you doing? Are you sleeping? And he looks back at me and he just opens his eyes really quick. He says, well, yeah, when it's a little storm like this, you just got to enjoy it rocking you back and forth to sleep. He was always joking like that. There was something inside me, though, that was like, no, I need to push this a little bit. Hey, Pa, what are you really doing? And he joked again, and finally I was like, I kind of need to know, what are you doing? And he says, well, I was praying. Now I got a little bit of fear in my heart because there's 20-foot swells. And there's a little fear of going, why are you choosing this time to pray? Why are you choosing this? My family wasn't very religious, so this was not a usual occurrence for me. And so I had to ask him, well, what are you praying for? And he jokes again, and I was like, no, seriously, I need to know what are you praying for? Because to my mind, there's only two options. One option is praying to get safely through the storm, or number two, he's thinking, we're going to sink, and now he's praying for our souls. And I want to know which one. What are we doing here? He tells me it's neither. He says that he was asking God to bring us through in whatever way God wants, to follow what God wanted. And I was like, that's a stupid prayer. There is too much ambiguity in that prayer. Like whatever God wants. I have seen Gilligan's Island. They made it through the storm. They ended up on an island for 3 whole seasons. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, no. We need to pray specifics with God. I was like, we need to pray that God would get us through safely and that my sister would stop throwing up all over the road or all over the rug, because I know I'm cleaning that up. Like, we need to pray for some specifics. And my grandpa, he looked back at me and he says, anytime you find yourself in a storm where everything seems impossible and the waves are all around you and they're crashing in and you can't see what's ahead, it's always a good idea to stop and pray, talk to God, and think about what God wants for you. At the time, I thought he was just commenting on the 20-foot swells that were in front of us. Didn't realize that he was actually talking about life. And that's what it was. Like, what do we do? What do we do as people when all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation where we're on a boat? We find ourselves on the boat of life, and we're looking around, and it feels like every wave is coming at us, that we're being hit from all sides, from the front, from the back. We can't see what's in front of us. We can't see what's behind us. All we see is the storms that are all around us. What do we do in those storms? How do we make it through those storms in life? How do we guide ourselves through it? How do we navigate those storms when you can't see what's ahead? Well, Paul shares with us how. In Acts 27.